come up. Yeah.
7:00. I don't like to.
Let's start the meeting with Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So I'd like to report that we had an executive session, that no votes were taken in executive session. So I can. Thank you for reminding me, Jen Flather.
You are, well, refill.
I'll entertain a motion to seal the minutes of executive session.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any announcements? Not seeing any. You have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, folks, we have a bunch of people here tonight. There'll be 3 minutes when you come up. You have to come up to the podium to speak in your microphone. You'll have 3 minutes. You'll see me say to you this, I'll do this. Don't get mad at me. Everybody wants to speak. I just have to keep it moving. So please remember that when you're up there, please address the committee and not the audience. I would appreciate that. Thank you. Discussion of notice of property tax change. I'm here to introduce our interim finance director, John McNamee, who's sitting here. He is the business manager, and our interim finance director here at Town Hall. Also works for Lincoln. And he was the business manager of the year in 2023. It's very impressive. Smart man. He's going to give us some sobering news.
With that introduction, we have this year's budget. We're looking at a current deficit of about $1 million. Our expenses are exceeding our revenues by $1 million. In the past 2 years, we've been able to fund our budget by taking funds out of the general fund accumulated surplus. So in 2024, the budget committee had recommended $1,125,092 be taken out of the general fund accumulated surplus to fund the budget. And as you recall, at that meeting, there were some additional monies that were voted at that budget at that meeting to increase the budget, approximately $320,000. So that number then jumped to $1,445,889. So that was in 24. In 25, when the budget was put together, the general fund appropriation was $1,116,796 to fund last year's budget. At this point in time, we don't have any additional accumulated surplus that we can use to fund the FY26 budget. So what we are facing is a structural deficit where our revenues do not satisfy the budget that is put forth. Accordingly, what we need to do is we need to obviously deal with this issue. And the only way we can deal with this is with a tax increase above the 4% cap, which is required by law. So at this point in time, the recommendation would be, and the council will move forward with it, is to increase the cap above the 4% to cover the budget.
John, would you like to say that's a one-time?
Yeah, so this structural deficit, once the increase is voted upon and approved, that will eliminate the structural deficit, and going forward, we would not be in a situation where we would be looking to exceed the cap going forward at this point.
I'm going to make a motion. I move to take the necessary steps for the town council to exceed the statutory cap of 4% by 8% for a total increase of 12%. And further, to authorize the town council president to sign a resolution to the Rhode Island General Assembly seeking legislative permission to exceed the cap. Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion.
Can I ask a question? If there's no
Yes.
Larry Anderson, thanks for that clear explanation of the filtering situation. Just a question is with regard to the approval from the state. Do we, the motion was for legislative approval. Is there, my understanding of the 4% cap is there are legally possible reasons for seeking for going over the 4% cap. Does this request is within those provided things, or do we have to go to the legislature for special approval? It's not clear to me what you're asking.
Mr. Anderson, so you're exactly right. So in this particular circumstance, that statute that you're referencing, 45, Tact 5, Tact 2 under the Rhode Island general laws, it does have specific provisions for which you can seek relief. And in this circumstance, those provisions wouldn't apply. So that's why we need to go to the General Assembly resolution for that relief.
I have to say this to this gentleman, 3 minutes. Sir, go right ahead. I told you, don't get mad at me. There's no need to. There's no need to.
Solomon, is there some way before you vote on this way this could be outlined with the numbers, the spreadsheet? So before you vote on it, as our representatives, we can understand it. Because it would be a lot more palatable.
Mr. McNamee, I've looked at a lot of numbers. You want to answer that one?
Well, the budget committee is just finalizing the budget right now. And we do have the levy from last year, which the 4%, we know what the 4% cap is. We know what the overall expenditures are. We know the shortfall at this point is roughly $1 million. So in order to make up that differential, because we included all the revenues that we can include, that would be any of the monies coming in from the state. That would be all the town fees that are included in there. And also on the tax side, it would be not only the current tax levy, the intangible tax, and prior year tax collections, as well as the interest. So all those numbers are being put together by the budget committee at this point in time. That public meeting, I believe, is going to be next
May 27th.
Next Tuesday.
in which that will be presented at this point in time. We are running up against a time issue because we need to get approval to exceed the 4% so that we can get approval from the Department of Revenue in order to proceed with the financial town meeting. And that's the issue we've been dealing with over the last 2 days. We've had.
I guess and my next question would be, if I have no problem with you getting the approval. I do have a problem with you voting on this to go forward with it. I would like to see the numbers. And for us to sit here and hear of an increase that high without total explanation, it's a little hard to take.
I'm assuming that would take place at the financial town meeting.
Little late for that.
Well,
I mean, you're going to be voting at the town meeting and financial meeting the same time as getting those numbers. Not good business.
well, I mean, the numbers, we have the numbers. We know what the $1 million shortfall is.
I'm glad you have it. I'm paying.
Exactly. We can provide those numbers, but
That's what I would like to see. And respectfully, for all of us,
Agree.
I would like to see those numbers.
Yeah, I don't think that's a problem. We can make those numbers available.
well, the budget, that'll be part of the budget presentation
Yeah.
on Tuesday night.
Mr. Chairman, that, of the committee, those numbers, we should have the ability to look at those numbers and be able to act on whether we want to vote or not vote for.
I have no problem giving the numbers, every number I've seen after this meeting. I don't have them in front of me. John, you have the numbers. We can make them available. I have no problem with that.
I would.
I mean, they're not, sure.
Thank you.
Jennifer Flather, I just want to ask, so when you say a 12, basically 12% increase, that's a 12% increase on our property tax. So our current property, right? Am I wrong? Our current property tax is $5.08. And we would per $1,000 of valuation. And then it's a 12% increase on that $5.08? No, what's the 12% on?
So with the evaluations, what'll happen is that mill rate will probably go down into the 470 range, 473, so 474. But it's also a function of the redistribution of the market value on the property. So the mill rate actually down. But because valuations are increasing in the town, but you're still limited to not increasing last year's tax levy by no more than 4% under the current regulation. So that limits us to a little over $500,000 to support the operating budget going forward. And obviously our expenditures have been exceeding that number.
Did everybody understand that he says? Yes. Sorry, I've been trying to pay attention.
Yeah.
I don't understand exactly. So you're telling me my house, which is worth $5, is now going to be evaluated by 12% more than it currently was during your last valuation?
No.
Where's my 12%?
Well, the 12% increase is going to be over last year's levy. So the taxes that we raised last year will be increased by 12%. So if the levy last year was say 14,068,000, that number gets increased by 12%. The distribution of how that's being taxed, depending on the valuation of your property. Based on the valuation of the property, then determine that the amount of money you're going to be able to raise will adjust the mill rate so that it's going to be somewhere in the 470 range for $1,000 of value.
$0.70.
Roughly, it's going to be in that 470 to 477 range at this point.
The mill rate has gone down because your property values have gone up. And we only charge what we need to do to run the town. And unfortunately, we spend more money, or we're attempting to spend more money because we have more facilities in town. We've hired more employees to take care of the town because the town has gotten bigger. Your tax rate last year was at 506, but that was what your property value was last year. Now your property value, your rate is going to be 473 because your house probably, and I don't know how much houses might have gone from 500,000 to 550,000 to $600,000. That's what the 473 is going to go for. Well, I think the budget was 17, we'll just say 17 million last year. And at the 4% of that, we could only go up like $500,000. But the budget requires us to go up a little over $1 million. That's where so it'd be the 4% plus the 8% to come up with that 12% of what last year's total operating budget was. And I'm just using at a fictitious number of 17 million. Now we're up to 18 million. At 4%, we could only go up like 500,000, but we need to go up, I think it's $1.2 million. So that's where the 12% is coming in. It's not coming in on your property. Your property's not going to go from 506 to 12% is what you're going to get charged. That's not it. Your property value is actually, it's going to go down to 473 because the majority of property in town went up 20%. So I can tell you that's truthful because a lot of mine went up 40%. So
I'm not disagreeing. I just want to make sure, like I myself and some of the other folks who aren't as versed in this and haven't been living in it for the past 2 weeks, as I'm sure the town council has and the budget committee. I just want to make sure we all kind of get it.
I can,
Better? Yeah. Okay, we get it better. Thank you.
okay.
and I can, I wrote something down a few days ago and I don't know if it's helpful or not. And this just is my opinion. The town has a funding issue, not a spending issue. The town opted to fund the budget with working capital from the general fund rather than raising taxes. That's how I see it. So if that helps anyone understand any better, I hope it does.
Bonnie, please.
If my question would be, what happens with the general fund? If we've zeroed out the general fund, is there money considered for the general fund for the future budget?
But no, there would be no additional monies taken out of the general fund appropriations.
Right, but
So-
would the balance in the general fund within the budget be zero?
It-
There's no slush fund, so to speak, on which to pull money where needed in emergencies.
It's going to be very tight. Yeah.
Thank you.
I got two hands on this side, one standing up, one sitting, whoever makes it there first.
My name is Vincent Kennedy. I
Sorry
reside
to the microphone, please.
on Big Drum Road. I've been a resident now for a year and 3 days, along with my wife, so some of my questions might reflect on lack of knowledge. Nonetheless, I have questions. One way of thinking about this is that this could be thought of as an enterprise of about 20 million that provides governmental, educational, and social services. It would be, I think, expected that the individual transaction volume would be somewhere in the range of 15 to 25,000 individual financial transactions in a year. One way of thinking about that is to think in terms of FTE minutes to process those transactions. You push these numbers around a little bit, that comes down to about 5 to 8 minutes per transaction. That strikes me as not impossible, but unlikely. And I draw two conclusions. One is that it shouldn't be a surprise that the reconciliations are proving to be a challenge. And secondly, that it appears that the financial treasurer's office is understaffed. So that's my comment. I have three questions. One is, does the town council receive and review interim comparative financial statements?
I have not. Have you, Bob?
They do not. They do not. Does the town council receive and review cash flow forecasts of receipts and disbursements?
We do not.
No.
Um, the, third question, is could you describe the control procedures, surrounding debits to the general fund?
On a bi-weekly basis, tonight being one of those times, we're presented with approximately a page list, if I'm answering your question, of the obligations that have been billed since the last council meeting. Am I answering the question you're asking?
What's the control process?
The control process is that those are approved by the vote of the council, and to a varying extent, different councilors invest little or much time to reviewing the specifics of what the charges are.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Gentleman in the back.
Joe Azrack on Grinnell Road. I just want to add comments. I would urge the council not to approve anything before the community has had an opportunity to see the financial statements to understand exactly what is going on. Including the balance sheet, the operating budget for the year, cash flow statements, sources and uses, understand what has transpired from last year to this year. It's my understanding that we had a substantial surplus of cash on hand last year. We now have $1 million deficit, if I understood correctly. I think it's incumbent upon the council and the budget committee to be able to share that information or whatever is accurate with the community, give us an opportunity to review it, and then be able to comment at the next budget committee meeting after we've seen it, before you vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I would respond to that with, it is, your expectation is certainly completely reasonable. The reason we are under duress at the moment, besides the problem itself, is the General Assembly is nearly coming into finishing their season. What we're doing is we intend to vote to put before them a resolution or a bill that achieves what we're talking about. And at the same time, it is our intention, obviously, to also make that part of our budget committee reporting to the public in the hearing that occurs before the meeting, as well as in the product that comes out that will define what those are. So there is some urgency tonight to getting this to the General Assembly for their consideration before they go into recess.
And then, at what point does the community have the opportunity to express its views as to whether you want to put that?
The most direct method will be at the Budget Committee hearing, in which a person can look at the Budget Committee report. And I'm not sure it will satisfy all of what you have described, but they're able to look and see, this is what we're taking to pay for what, and can ask questions and inform their decision that they wish to make at the town meeting.
That'd be next week.
That
May 27th.
Yes.
When would the financial statements, whatever form they're in, when would that be made available to everyone?
I don't know.
As I stated, I've, whatever numbers I have, I'll make available after this meeting.
I mean, I would expect, based on the experience, that the budget committee would make the information available a reasonable time in advance, certainly more than a week, for everybody to be able to review and understand and prepare for a discussion with the committee before a final approval is requested.
Thank you. Another bite of the apple, Larry. That's a minute. I forgot to say that. A second bite of the apple is a minute.
Just say, I've been on the budget committee in the past, I've been town moderator on the town council, I've watched a situation like this play out. The ultimate, the council, like it or not, is acting on our behalf. We have no vote here tonight. It's the timeframe under good circumstances is always compressed in terms of the budget committee, the council, the school department coming up with the figures to have their meetings, have their hearings, then send out a budget committee work to us before town meeting. We've already put the deadline for this is the end of the fiscal year. And what I was going to say, the ultimate point where we have a voice is at the financial town meeting. I was on the budget committee when the council, the school committee, the budget committee asked for 15% increase. The voters wouldn't have it. The ultimate voice you will have, whether you're satisfied with the numbers that they come up with in the meantime, is that town meeting. We don't have to necessarily approve a 12% increase. The result will be that services will be cut. We have that power at town meeting. Don't want it. So the ultimate voice, the ultimate decision, once they know whatever they're going to do, will be at that town meeting.
May I?
You have a second bite of the apple,
Yeah. I'm gonna go right down to the core.
right down to the core.
First of all, no one has to tell us what the responsibilities are here. We understand everybody's responsibilities. All I'm asking for is a legitimate listing of all the numbers we can look at before there's a vote. There's nothing wrong with that, and us asking. Getting the numbers the night of the budget committee meeting is too late and too fast for a vote. I want to be able to look at the numbers to vote on. And I think that's fair. And I've been to all the meetings that everybody's been to. I've been to all the committee meetings. I'm not asking for much. I'm just asking for a reckoning of where we are. Very simple. Thank you.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, the budget committee's meeting now in another location, in a public meeting. And those numbers are being talked about right now. And I think at the end of that meeting, those numbers will be available. So it's happening right now. There's a hand. I knew if I waited long enough, there'd be one.
Will that information be available to the whole community? Or is that just gonna be stop in and get a piece of paper? Or did you get that? Would that information be available to the whole community?
Good question, Carol.
Vote, and you're gonna have information looking at the budget committee with a lot of people upset, go, well, you're not gonna get what you want. So I just think the more information sooner would be better for everyone involved.
Thank you.
Okay.
I have a motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None. Thank you. Moving on to old business, I'd like to make a motion right off the bat. So given the budget committee in their meeting on May 13th, voted to recommend a budget spending reduction totaling $644,000 for FY26. It would be, in my opinion, fiscally irresponsible to enter into any borrowing or partnership that would expose the town to fiscal risk. That's old business one. Reconsider prior submittal of Articles 3, 4, and 5, the warrant of the financial town meeting, articles regarding 30 and 32.
Yeah, can I?
I would just do this one, Gary, and you can go for
Well,
it.
I'm the one that put this on the agenda.
I had it on the agenda way before that.
Carol?
I'm not gonna get into an argument.
I'll give you
All right, go ahead.
I move, that's fine. I move to reconsider the motions to adopt the two proposed budget articles regarding 30 and 32 comments by the town council on February 27th, 2025 meeting.
Second that.
Thank you, Gary, and we are in discussion.
So I was led to believe that I was the first one to put that on. I think that the intent of this was good to get affordable housing in town, but being on the CRC committee. We didn't get one person that said that this was a good idea. Everybody said we should wait. And I don't want to be redundant, and I think that's a correct procedure to do, and I'm glad that you made the motion to take these off, because I think it was going to be a very divisive situation. And I think it's going to put the town at a little bit of ease that these are going to be withdrawn and not be voted on. And I think that on the update on Commerce Review Committee recommendations, I think we should get a review committee and have them meet not once a month, but maybe 2 or 3 times a month, and come up with a plan so that we can go forward with improving the buildings down at 30 and 32 Commons. Thank you.
Well, the motion on the table?
And just to clarify one point, the motion is to.
Microphone. Sorry.
I'm happy to repeat it if you want.
Okay, yes.
Put my new glasses on. I move to reconsider the motions to adopt the 2 proposed budget articles regarding 30 and 32 Commons by the town council at the February 27th, 2025 meeting. It's my understanding we have to reconsider them. And I was in the favoring, majority.
Exactly. Once you reconsider, once you've had.
Then I'm going to make another motion.
Then there would be a motion. Yeah,
Right.
Depending which direction.
Exactly.
Council wants to go.
Any other further questions on this one, on reconsidering?
Are you taking comments to make?
Sure you can. Come on up.
Well, I think you want the,
We want
Go
to
I think you want your comments after you decide to reconsider.
reconsider.
Okay, Carol, you heard Carol. Thank you, Carol.
You're welcome.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None. I'm going to make a second motion. I move to rescind and revoke the 2 budget articles adopted by the town council on February 27, 2025, regarding the renovation of 30 and 32 Commons.
Second.
Discussion. Does someone want to go right ahead?
Yes, good evening. Susan Boddington, Town Way. I just want to take an opportunity to thank the members of the town council for your coming up with this strategy and proposing it and supporting creating affordable housing, especially on the commons and especially for seniors. We still need housing. Our seniors need housing. Our families need housing. Our farmers and workers in town need housing. And your support for this is very much appreciated, and we should continue to find opportunities to move that forward. Those 2 buildings still need to be renovated at some point, so as we move forward, it makes sense to step back and and that everyone can support on the commons and in town. But I really appreciate the fact that all of you recognize the fact that we do need the housing, and we're willing to put that forward. Thank you.
Thank you. So in the discussion, I see no other hands. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Not seeing any. Thank you. Full business 2. Update on Commons Review Committee recommendations. Gary, I think you gave a teaser for that. There's a committee, and was one of their recommendations. And I think at a future meeting, we should do that.
Yeah, I would solicit citizens to come forward for a committee to, I think we had it in the CRC minutes. And I don't have them in front of me right now what the recommendations were, but have some citizens come forward to diligently going to work on what we can do with those buildings down there and get the support of not only the town council, but the citizens so that we can have something down there that everybody wants.
Thanks, Gary. Okay, there's no vote on that. Thank you. Full business 3, appointment to fill the vacancy on the Historic Preservation Advisory Committee of an unexpired term. Vacancy will expire March 20th, 2026. Do I have a motion for a recommendation?
I'd like to make a motion that we appoint Jan Williams to fill the vacancy.
Jan Williams?
Yes.
I'll second it. Discussion? Not seeing any. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Not seeing any. Congratulations to someone else on a committee. Old business 4. Update on the proposed traffic plan set to Rhode Island Department of Transportation for a hearing held May 7th, 2025. Chief Raines is with us. Dressed impeccably as usual.
Thank you.
Up here as well.
So, last time I was here was April 10th. We discussed this project that, DOT had proposed. I'm not gonna go back into the history, just wasting time. So May 7th, the Traffic Safety Advisory Board held a meeting. They took in the comments that we had gathered at the April 10 meeting. I also offered up time in my office for anyone who wanted to come in, give me some comments. I would add them to that email. I had no one come in and give additional comments. So the two major comments that we had that we sent to DOT prior to May 7th were on the east side of the commons, directly across from the library. This area here, we were asking for a few more parking spots. All right, they have obliged, they say that's not a problem, right? But probably 2. I think 2 is the max we're gonna get. We do need to keep a little line of sight here on that. The biggest comment that we had was the parallel parking is on relatively the opposite side that we're used to parking or doing our parallel parking on, okay? And I asked if we could move it to the quote unquote normal side of the road, the right-hand side of the roadway, so that it would be easier for people to parallel park. That would reduce the amount of parking spots. Obviously, I think we have 4 or 5 different driveways on that side, the south side of the commons. If everyone's following me, a lot of directional stuff there. They did not recommend that for the fact that it removes the number of spots and that it's difficult for anyone to back out of their driveway. They feel it would be more dangerous to put the parking spots on that side as people back out. You have large size SUVs. We all know you can't see around them. We have the assistance now. Everyone has a backup camera in their car, but they advised against that. Now, what they did say is that these spots on the inside or the cemetery side of the south side are 8 feet wide. They can widen those to 10 feet, make it a little easier to park, give the driver more space to get out of the driver's side. We still will have a 14-foot lane, one-way lane. Normal streets are 11 feet. Normal lanes are 11 feet. So we have a pretty good sized wide lane with an additional 2 feet to the curb. We'll have a white fog line, 2 feet to the curb. So those were their additional recommendations. I asked Michelle King, who was our representative at DOT, I asked her if this program, if we agreed to those, if this was a go. She wants an answer from the town whether we want to go forward with this or not. So I think the bottom line is if we said no, DOT would stop the project. If we want to go forward, they could do the project. Estimated time frame is probably late summer of 2026. This is not a large scale building project. This is more of a striping project. It'll take a couple of days. They'll come in and they'll grind the existing lines and they'll paint new lines. There'll be a buildup to the process. It's not just going to happen instantaneously. There'll be media advisories. There'll be signs put up. DOT, we're going to request extra electronic signboards to let everybody know how things are going to happen. And then we'll have extra police officers during the transition time. So try to make it as easy as possible and as safe as possible.
So I'm going to make a motion and then we can discuss. I'm going to make a motion to approve the traffic plan by the Rhode Island Department of Transportation. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion. Anyone would like to discuss, counselors or anyone else?
So Chief, I think you said at the last meeting, north and south in front of the store and whatnot, that goes 2 ways.
Yes, it continues 2 ways. The east side of the triangle, so to speak, continues 2 ways.
And there was some concern about just south of Wilbur's store, about losing 2 spots there? Did they make any recommendation there?
They haven't mentioned that
Okay,
odd area next to the angle parking where there are no lines, but there are actual parking curbs, the steel cement curbs are there. I'm not sure why they're not talking about that. People are still utilizing it as a parking spot. You know, it is what it is.
right.
You put the 2 cars there, it makes it difficult for those coming off of Southwick Commons north. They gotta come to the stop line and then you kind of gotta go around to the left. In some ways, it slows the traffic down and it makes it, you know, hard to say, maybe even a little safer. It reduces visibility, but you definitely have to slow down and make a complete stop at that stop line. So I don't know why they're not commenting on it.
Thank you. And do you recommend this traffic pattern?
I like the additional parking space. Let's look outside right now. We all, there's 40, I forget the number now. It's written down here, but we played with that now.
We picked up.
Looking at, you know, 80 something spaces additionally. Like everything, no one likes change. We all like the way it's always been. But I think eventually we'll get used to it. And I think it will certainly enhance the safety and the flow around the commons itself. We'll have to make some adjustments and there'll be a ripple effect. There are things that we haven't thought of that are going to come up. It's always the case. But, you know, we go over the speed bump, but we don't stop. We move forward and we'll make it happen.
Thank you, Chief.
I know I had some hands right next to each other, whoever wants to go.
Fox, I've lived on the Commons. 2 friends heard my spiel a couple of times already, but this is different.
With a twist.
Microphone down.
The twist.
So, one of my concerns is I can see a pretty significant number of cars every day U-turn at the bottom of Pikes Peak. So if cars are coming down the north side, I can guarantee you they're going to be turning to go back up toward Wilbur's. It happens constantly, and I'm always amazed that there's no problem. Traffic. So I was just wondering how you intend to do that.
The picture that I have here printed up, Ms. Fox, you want to come up and I'll show you, is different than what we have here.
Okay.
They created a lane. They created a U-turn lane.
Well, there you go.
So I apologize for not giving the clerk a picture. I have a picture where they have created a lane right here, a U-turn lane. So as a result, we'll lose a couple of these spots here and those spots there, and there'll be more line of sight for the U-turn.
Go right ahead.
Please.
This is a very minor question, I'm sure, but it's driving me crazy. Can we change the street sign, please, from Common Street to the Commons?
It's already in progress.
Yes, and DOT is well aware of the signage differences. But they're not my signs.
I understand.
They have told me they're going to replace them.
Sheila McIntosh, perhaps on your map. It illustrates crosswalks, of which none show over there.
Again, yes, I haven't updated, and the crosswalks, the one in front of the church by the parochial school will come back, as well as there's a question of this crosswalk down here by the Wilbur School. Crosswalks have to be ADA compliant. There would have to be some construction done to the sidewalk to make it wheelchair accessible. And I don't know where DOT stands with that. But the one in front of the church, the congregation church door is coming back.
Not seeing any further questions. We have a motion on the table. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, sir. Old business 5, enter into a memorandum of understanding to hire Kim Jacob to assist in the town managing the overflow of sewer grant for Taylor's Lane. The good news here, this grant costs the town nothing, no match. Done 247,000, Tony, is that what it is?
Yes,
Prepared to talk, wake up over there? You're gonna talk about this?
yes, I can.
Talking to you, talking.
Microphone, please.
Okay, can you hear me now? Okay, I'll move in a little closer. Okay. The memorandum, just to be sure, this is actually part of a grant that we have, that we've had, and we actually would end as of, this, September 30th. So however, in order to move along and, do some catch up, we need someone to come and assist us, to oversee the grant and the project itself at Taylor's Lane. So I highly recommend that we engage the service of Kim Jacobs, who's provided a service previously with us. If you recall, she's also the consultant that did the study, the needs assessment. That's.
Jacobs is outstanding. Can you give a quick history of this grant? Is this a municipal resiliency grant?
That is correct.
It came from Larry Anderson's hard work, is that right?
He was,
Right in saying that?
well, he was part of that. Yes, he
It was
was.
a big part of it. And he dragged a lot of people to a lot of meetings via Zoom. Larry did. So Larry, this is coming to fruition and it's going to cost the town $0. $0.
That
You
is
have the total, is it 247 or 274?
247.
$247,000, no match. Thank you. I'll make a motion to accept the MOU from Kim Jacobs. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you. New business, Jen, fly the microphone here. New business one, discuss hiring process and interviews for the position of town administrator. Consider a search team to review resumes and conduct first level interviews. Consider any need to extend deadline for receipt of resumes. I will report to you, we've had 80 resumes. I'm going to appoint a committee now. Myself, Councilor Talbot, Chief Petrin, Heather Cook, and Denise Cosgrove. I would also charge that committee with bringing back up to 3 candidates for the council's review and interview.
I'll second that motion.
And on discussion, if there's any. Seeing no discussion, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. New business 2, receive the Little Compton Agricultural Conservancy Trust, the revision of the LCAT standing rules for approval as per section 4 of the enabling legislation. Upon approval, the standing rules will be updated in the town council. I have a note here and it says Talbot. Is that right?
That I would like to speak to this?
Yes.
Yes, I would.
Okay.
Thank you. I see Rusty's here too. Hi, Rusty.
Yeah, but actress.
Do you want to present on this a bit before I speak, or how do you want to do this?
Completely up to you.
Sure. Well, maybe mine will be in the form of a question that you can answer. So we'll go with that. So I compared the draft that you presented alongside your existing standing rules and your scoring methodology and procedure document from 2020. It looks to me like this new draft is sort of a combination of those two, with some kind of cleanup and reorganization. Not much in the way of substantial additions or deletions. Is that an accurate summary of what we're looking at here?
Generally, there have been some additions and deletions of things that we no longer do or we've started to do. An example would be when and how we accept applications. The old standing rules said we would do it annually, and we don't do it that way anymore. We just accept them when they come in. So those sorts of changes in how we have done business compared to what was previously written down is the bulk of what happened. The scoring methodology that you mentioned, we revised in 2020 and now is actually part of the document. The format of the document has changed slightly so that durable parts of it are the first page or so. There's things like describing the chairman and the vice chairman. Those sorts of things will never change. but some of the other things will. An example is that in the future, we're going to add an appendix that describes how the trust approaches hunting on our property. We haven't come to the resolution of that example yet, which is why it's not in what you see before you, because I think we can change the format so that our appendices and we can add, change, delete more easily than changing an entire document.
Thank you. You probably won't be surprised to hear that I was hoping to find some language related to farmer housing, especially given that at recent events, such as the fall presentation at the community center, when you spoke at that housing forum, you talked about focusing on larger tracts of land to attract young farmers and the intent to reserve building envelopes so that a farmer could move to town and live and work on a farm. And then we had Mr. McNaughton was here just a couple months ago presenting his update to the council. And he said that the Ag Trust would, quote, strive to include housing opportunities for farmers in each acquisition, deed restricting a building envelope for continuing affordability wherever possible. So I liked hearing those things. I was happy to hear those. And I take you all at your word that that is the intent. But if it's a strategic objective, I'd like to see what actions are going to be taken towards achieving that. And is that something that could be enumerated, clarified as part of your scoring methodology or some other cited strategy?
Yeah, we go through strategic objectives annually and decide what we want to do in the future or review what we've had in the past. That focus on farmer housing has been in the annual objectives that we strive for. I don't think that putting anything like that in the standing rules would actually fit the rubric of standing rules. In the past, things have been put in easements. For instance, the easement that the trust holds on portions of my property allows us to put farmer housing on that protected property. And that's probably where we would go with farmer housing in the future on protected properties. We include it in the easements. I don't see how that would necessarily fit in the standing rules.
And maybe that's not the place for him, but I guess I'd love to see that codified somewhere in some language related to the trust, because I've only heard it spoken publicly, again, which I appreciate, but I'd like to understand how that's actually going to flesh out. And then the last thing I would say is I think it would be beneficial to have the planning board take a look at this and be able to give their feedback, see how it comports with the comp plan and just get their take on it, their read on it. So I would like you guys to consider sharing it with the planning board before bringing it back to us.
Sounds like a motion. Sounds motioning.
It does sound motioning.
Would you like to make a motion?
Sure.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that this draft be returned to the Ag Trust and the planning board review before it comes back to the council for our approval.
I'll second it. Discussion? Any further discussion? I have a hand.
Carter Wilkie, as a planning board member, let me just give you my initial feedback tonight, and I support the motion to involve the planning board in this. These criteria are very, very important because this is the decision-making priority by which the Agricultural Conservancy Trust invests millions over the years on behalf of the town to fulfill its vision and comprehensive plan and fulfill its statutory primary purpose. And after looking at these criteria this evening, I would say that they do not reflect or fulfill the Agricultural Conservancy Trust's primary purpose by statute, which is to preserve agricultural land in Little Compton for agricultural use. If you look at section 3, this appendix and the scoring criteria, there is no mention of agriculture. There is no mention of working farms. There is not a single mention of farmers, and there's no mention of just a basic farm. What you have in the scoring criteria is one brief, simple message mention of farmland, which only accounts for 12.5% of the scoring criteria. And we all know that farmland without a farmer is not farmland. So this needs to be revisited. There's a reference to prime soils, but if it's not farm production, it doesn't matter whether it's prime soils or mesic soils or wet, because it's never going to be farmed. And all you wind up doing is using the transfer tax to subsidize rural estates for people who are not farmers. And I don't think that was the purpose of the enabling legislation for the trust. So for examples of how this could be improved, I would point you to the state's criteria used by the Agricultural Lands Preservation Commission, which is the statewide equivalent of the local Compton Trust. And their criteria are very simple, much simpler than what you see here. And they also include mention of agricultural operations and viability. And it says specifically, priority shall be given to farms that are important to the overall and/or long-term viability of agriculture in general in Rhode Island. Farm viability. And it says that are or have the potential to be financially viable. And it says that they will consider the farm's geographical locations, including proximity to other agricultural operations, markets, and suppliers, and future business plans, including a farm transfer or farm succession plan. There's no mention of that here in these criteria. And I would say in this town, with our housing situation, for a farm to be viable, it has to include a farmhouse, or the easement has to include a grandfathered lot for a future farm family to be able to build a farmhouse, so the land won't be farmed. And then it also includes how the purchase of development rights would contribute to maintaining geographic diversity and the protection of farmland. How the purchase of development rights would contribute to the creation of agricultural corridors. How the purchase of development rights would contribute to maintaining a mix of farm types. These are planning board questions. These are the kind of questions that every town's comprehensive plan should include. That's why the planning board should be included. And the last thing I'll point to is another example that we could follow is the Aquidneck Land Trust. They have a wonderful farm preservation plan. You can go and find it online. They have 8 simple criteria, and that includes a working farm and contiguous working farms. Again, the kind of criteria that we don't see here that we need to see. And I think if you were to give us on the planning board an opportunity to work together with the Ag Trust, I think we can come up with much better scoring methodology that would serve the long-term interests of the town.
Thank you. Further hands, go ahead.
I have just a comment and a question that I'll in response to Mr. Willoughby's concerns, which are for consideration. I thought I would just read the section 1 of the enabling legislation about what the purpose of the Agricultural Conservancy Trust is. There's hereby established a Little Compton Agricultural Conservancy Trust for the primary purpose of acquiring development rights to agricultural property within the town. The trust shall also have as a secondary purpose, the acquisition of agricultural property and/or other property or interest therein to preserve open spaces, fresh and saltwater marshes, estuaries, and adjoining uplands, groundwater recharging areas, land providing access to the ocean, land for bicycle paths, and land for future public recreational facilities and use. That's a broad array of purposes. The legislation, unchanged since 1985, describes one as primary, one as secondary. It provides no numbers how to distinguish those. They're all the purposes of the trust. I just offer that for comment. The other question I have is that, and I have not been able to attend recent Agricultural Conservancy Trust meetings, that the draft that is in the council's packet. I know that the council has been discussing about the possibility of adopting standard rules and regulations regarding the transfer tax collection. Discussions that those I don't see in there. Are those anticipated or in discussion? Or what? I'm directing that question to
Thank you, Larry.
Don McNaughton, I chair the Ag Trust. Thanks for the question, Larry. So the council asked the Ag Trust late last year to engage counsel for the purpose of looking at the enabling legislation and the purpose of the Ag Trust and whether or not the Ag Trust was able to enter into different kinds of transactions. In the process of doing all that, we've already reported to you on that. In the process of doing that, we actually sat with counsel, which we had not engaged before, and asked counsel to look at our standing rules to determine, A, whether they comported with the enabling legislation and the state of Rhode Island rules. B, were they accurate in terms of the steps that we currently take, the operating procedures that we currently have, and do they accurately reflect those? And C, we wanted to enact this appendix form to the standing rules to make it easier and less onerous on any future changes. Council looked at the current standing rules and had a variety of suggestions, which we incorporated into the standing rules revised, which is in your packet tonight. So I think that we, at the council's urging, engage council in a variety of things to improve operationally what we were doing. Specific to the transfer tax question that Larry has brought up, that is still under review by council, and it is not quite yet done, but we didn't want to hold up the package that we have in front of you tonight for that. And also, as Rusty mentioned, we are in the process of, we've engaged a hunting committee to take a look at what we do as operating procedures for hunting in town. We asked 4 or 5 different hunters to join us in that subcommittee. That will be yet another appendix that we add to the standing rule. So all of this is in process. It's been a busy year already, but I think that we're making good progress on a number of important fronts. One of which is the housing question, which we reported to you last time when we said that we take farmer housing extremely seriously. I can debate with Mr. Wilkie his rather one-sided reading of the scoring criteria. We happen to live with it every day. I don't remember fielding a question from Mr. Wilkie as to how that actually happens. Putting that aside, I think that we've made tremendous progress, and there's certainly more to go.
Thank you. That's a hallway debate, by the way, or Ag Trust Planning Board. You guys can communicate that. Thank you. I think there's a motion on the table. Who knows? Motion on the table? Yeah. Send it down to the planning board. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None. Thank you. New business 4.3. Receive bid proposals for spring and roadside mowing. Do we have one?
Yes, we do.
Oh, good.
Have just one.
I don't.
Two. Pass that down, please.
RM Construction, $12,000. I'll make the motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Wait a minute. You mumbled, so I don't
No
know
mumble.
exactly what you said.
Mumble there. I made a motion for RM Construction for mowing.
What about him? To award it to him?
Yeah.
Okay, that would be helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. New business. Request from the LC 350 committee to place banners on the Commons, Adamsville, and for town entryways. I'll make that motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Request for approval to use the town seal of historic property plaques to be used in Historic Preservation Advisory Committee program. I'm happy to make that motion also. Second. All in favor?
Excuse me.
Aye. Thank you.
Excuse me.
Oh, we have it up. Someone's up.
They can give me permission.
I know, but.
Okay.
That's the part.
Yeah.
3 minutes.
But that would be the chairman's discretion.
Okay. So, the Historic Preservation Advisory Committee has come up with a certain plaque design. and the purposes of this get your approval for this field to be. I thought the committee will be interested to look at it. I didn't know you had it, but the audience has not seen it. So our first plaque will be for the town hall, which will go in a very nice manner and present it as very digital. I do want to use this opportunity specifically to thank Bob Motion, who helped me guide me through this process, putting this study together. It took us about 6 months or so. So Bob Motion was very much involved to arrange it, eventually getting it to fly. Thank you very much.
Very well.
Thank you.
At some point, this will be available for the citizens when they meet criteria to install on their houses as well.
Thank you.
Thank you for your.
We have a hand.
What will they be made out of?
We're working on it. It will be very durable, very beautiful.
Material you have to decide.
We have not quite decided.
Thank you.
Thank you.
She wants to hear someone here close to microphone. There will be an opportunity.
Too. I just love.
The application fee will include the cost of the plaque and doing research.
So the building owner will.
If you apply, the building owner, you will pay for it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Town Council sitting as a Board of License Commissioners, one request, Little Compton Game Club Incorporated for a Class F1 one-day retail beverage license for a clam bake on June 8th, and one for a clam bake on September 21st, 2025, both to be held at 88 John Dyer Road.
Motion to approve with all local and state ordinances adhered to.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Communications. Application received from Onshore Brewing seeking a mobile food establishment license for a mobile food trailer.
Same motion.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you. Communications two, electronic communication from Chris Donovan expressing extreme disappointment with a septic system matter she's complained about previous. Chris here. Solicitor, would you like to comment on this?
Yeah, absolutely. So matters of this nature involving septic and cesspools, that's a matter of enforcement that's governed by DEM's regulations, and specifically look at statutes that provide DEM that authority. It's Rhode Island General Laws 2319.15 TAC 9. Having said that, there are provisions under the Rhode Island General Laws that allow the town to provide an overlay district if they want to go through the process of regulating these things.
Thank you, Mark. Any other comment? We have our hands. Come on up.
Just because I happen to be a neighbor and live in this area, can I have an understanding of what the complaint was that was made?
I don't have a complaint. I think that went to DEM. That's public. Is that public that a neighbor could follow up about a complaint in her neighborhood?
Under the Access to Public Records Act, you should be able to access that complaint depending on the status of DEM's investigation to the matter. There's an APRA exception depending where they are in that investigation, but you may be able to access that under APRA.
So you all received an email just expressing disappointment and not complaint? Is that what this says here?
I have received email correspondence from Chris Donovan. I have not received, I don't receive a formal complaint because we don't have jurisdiction. If you're asking for a formal complaint, there's probably one filed at DEM that I don't know if there is.
Thank you.
Welcome.
It's not you, if that's what you're wondering.
Okay, I don't think there's any vote needed on that. Might have,
Motion to place on file.
thank you. Yep, all in favor?
Aye.
Thanks for that, Gary. Might have trouble with this name. Give it a shot. Letter from Richard D.
Dario.
The Dario.
Esquire, incumbent probate judge from Little Compton, expressing his wishes to continue as the town's probate judge for another term.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Current term expires June 30th, 2025. I've got to meet this gentleman, All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Copy of proposed bill H5756, sponsored in part by Representative Michelle McGaugh. Said bill will establish, if adopted, an enabling legislation that would allow municipalities to choose to participate in the tax on high-end residential sales to be used for affordable housing. I have a note. It says Counselor Arate Moore. Is that right?
Yeah, I handed out a resolution. I handed out a resolution in support of this bill to all the counselors here. I'm looking for us to support Michelle McGaugh's House bill, which would give the town an opportunity to install a conveyance tax on properties that are worth more than $900,000, which would be used, and those funds could be used for the development of affordable housing. I think it's an option. It's a good option. Without increasing the tax burden on residents, we need to find other funding sources, and this is certainly something that we should be considering.
Will that copy of that resolution be available?
Yes.
Okay.
So just everybody is aware of what's going on. Michelle McGraw put this legislation forward, and Andrew came up with a resolution. So anything that's sold over $900,000 will have a 2% fee on it, if I'm reading it correctly. Will go into the housing
I
trust.
think over the 900.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Overnight.
And that was a 2% fee, Andrew. That would.
I'm just trying to, I don't want to say yes, I think that's correct, but yes, that's correct.
As I understand it, is 2%.
Yeah.
Right.
And it would be, towns could opt in.
So with a 4% conveyance tax from the ag trust, and then this 2% would be 6% for somebody buying a house in here.
6% real estate.
Right. So just so everybody knows what's going on here.
Question.
So if someone wants to come up, please go to the podium.
Another minute.
I'm gonna give you some minutes.
Is that 2% on the overage over 900,000?
Yes.
Okay, not on the total 900.
No.
Okay, thank you.
Anything above $900,000, 2%.
Everyone's, oh, we have a question. Go ahead, sir. Come on.
My name's Jack here, Sakana Point Road. I am, so is this a motion to approve this or study this? What's on the table?
To create a resolution
And
in
support.
support of it, if that is successful, if the motion is successful.
Now, I think it is very, this is something that there's no such thing as free money, in my opinion. You've got a 4% conservancy tax already, 2% on top of that. I think way too much. There's a hard question that needs to be asked: how much is enough? And if you think that this isn't going to affect the current residents, I think we're all making a serious mistake.
Well, just to respond to that, that's why it starts at $900,000. So people that are buying homes worth more than $900,000, if they're buying a $1 million home, then they're getting taxed on that $100,000. So 2% of that.
Yeah, I'm quite clear.
Yeah.
And for the record, I'm on the housing trust. I'm all about affordable housing. I think this is a serious mistake that we should be having a discussion. How much is enough? Is 4% for the agricultural conservancy enough? Is 2% on top appropriate? you come in, you're buying a house, and I think in one of the most recent studies, in the COVID period, the price, and I have this wrong, I'm sure, but the price of houses being sold went from something like 400,000 to 800,000 or 900,000. You think 900,000 is a Taylor Swift kind of home, but it's not. I mean, a lot of homes here process. So somebody here that's selling a home makes it harder for that person. I would urge the council to be debating what mix of conveyancing taxes on top of what we're charging, or how should we adjust the mix of what we have on the table now before in the middle of the night, late at the game, we discuss this without really thinking long and hard. Yeah.
Yeah, well, just, I understand what you're saying. This is not a mandate for us to participate in it. It gives us the opportunity to implement this. Any conveyance tax needs to be passed by the General Assembly. So again, this isn't a mandate. It would allow us in the future to implement this 2% tax on top of the 900,000. And on top of that, I completely agree with you that we need to look at the other conveyance taxes. And that's on us as a town to decide, well, what should that tax percentage be for that's going to the agriculture?
Sandra, thanks very much. Let me respond to your commentary. I haven't seen much willingness to look at that tax here. So from my perspective, I think you should think long and hard about this before you generally say, give yourself a soft okay to take this up in the future. That's one position. I don't really care. That's my point of view.
Okay, well, every single year, the conveyance tax that we give to the I Trust comes before us. And we make that decision as to what the minimum number is that's taxed. And we have continuously moved that number up over the years. So it's not like we've never done anything about it. And we have that opportunity again at town meeting next month. Anyone, you could get up and do something if you wanted to, but I mean, like we have continuously moved that number upwards, and it's not enough.
You double the number the last little bit. This is not a diatribe on my part against the Ag Trust. The Ag Trust's done a great job, but at some point, enough's enough. And at 2% on top of the 4%, you know, you've gone from like 300 to 450. You know, when the average price in town is selling significantly higher than that, you know, there are millions of dollars that go into that. I'm just saying, before you create the loose opportunity to do another conveyance tax, I'd like to have a serious debate about how much is enough. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
If I could just add to what Andrew was saying about FTM. So that's right. It's our opportunity every single year to take a look at that, both the threshold, the exemption threshold for property, which just got raised last year for the first time in several years. And the rate. I think we can go up to 5%. Is that the legal threshold?
I could just interject. I don't think that's on the agenda tonight.
That's correct.
So if you could keep us on the rails, I'm not the lawyer here. Just been at a few meetings in my day.
Okay.
So if you can keep us on the guardrails here, that's your responsibility.
Absolutely, Mr. President.
Should we not discuss the fact that if we're concerned that how much is too much, which I think is a very valid question, we do have that ability to make those changes every year at FTM. So maybe it's a discussion we should be having another time after this meeting when we have it on the agenda.
That's exactly right.
Just a quick question about the legislation. Is the $900,000 a static number, or does it adjust with inflation? And does the town have the ability, as we do with the Ag Trust levy, to change the number on our own under this enabling legislation?
Bill, I don't have the answer to that.
I think I would like to know the answer to that. I think there might be some amendments to be made to what she's proposing before we endorse it.
Thank you, Bill. They trip over something? A little lag? They trip on the lag?
There's another time to talk about this. I agree with Michelle's effort to raise funds for any way we can do it. We've talked about using our funds for that. And these funds already being accumulated by the trust. We're running out of agricultural land. We don't have enough farmers. We don't have enough housing for farmers. We need affordable housing. So there are other vehicles. We can use part of that trust money by changing the legislation, using it for affordable housing. All the way. But we have so many issues we can address in town. We have all these Airbnbs. Are they licensed? Are they regulated? Does the fire marshal look at those houses? Does the police know who's in those houses? How many people are in there on the weekend? Are their septic systems being monitored properly? All these issues can be taxed and bring funds to the town for affordable housing. I mean, there's so many Airbnbs now in town. There's so many empty houses in the wintertime. Businesses are leaving after that we can develop and put our police in town. All over affordable. So I think you guys are doing a wonderful job on affordable housing. We need to have a committee come together and figure this thing out. We need the funds. We're gonna have to come up with a way to do this. You can't keep grabbing agricultural land, taking it away from people who want to put affordable houses. You have to work on something that works for the town.
Thank you.
That's my comment.
Thank you.
Can't decide it tonight, but thanks for the effort.
Yeah, Mike Steers. He was lurking behind you, Larry.
Larry's waiting a long time.
He was lurking behind you.
Mike Steele, I have read the legislation in the packet and I had a couple of questions on it. It seemed to me that what she's suggesting is an amendment to existing legislation. So if you adopt this, I'm assuming you adopt the whole thing. And it currently starts out with a tax that begins with $100, sales over $100. Then the second tier is sales in excess of $800,000. On both of those plans, you pay $2.30 for each $500,000. She's proposing a third tier, but all of these three tiers are cumulative. And when you look at the third tier, which is the 3% above 900,000. Well, if you look at sales under 800,000, which is the tax tier A and B, which are existing today. And then you look at the payout to the town, the distribution from that $2.30 per 500,000. You get the state gives the distressed community relief program 30 cents of that. Then they give the town affordable housing another 30 cents. 60 cents of that goes to the state, and the balance goes to the municipality and a fund not dedicated to affordable housing. The only tax tier of the new is the new proposal, which is in addition to these first two tax tiers, where all money goes into affordable housing. And the town has 2 years to spend that money, otherwise it goes to the state. What a screw in here.
Yeah.
Thank you. Sorry. You can show that.
I would like to support this amendment to the current advanced tax law, which is the very same law by statute on which our local conveyance tax already figured this. This is the cited law, the conveyance tax law. So the mechanism is exactly the same for collecting it. As was pointed out, the legislation says the town may adopt this by ordinance. That is, it's not mandatory for a town to adopt this. As I read this, the exemption appears to be fixed in legislation under the thousand. This is the mechanism for it doesn't seem to be adjustable in the legislation, nor does it seem to grant municipalities the ability to change that. So that is a question. It doesn't require a 2% tax. It's up to 2%. So there has been debate. I think there is still debate. I debated whether our transfer taxes be higher or too low. I brought, it's not on the agenda every year. This can be brought to a town meeting by statute. I did about 6 years ago. I proposed to reduce the tax. We compromised with the trust and reduce the exemption, which we've done several times since. That's a whole different discussion. I can't squeeze in that balloon forever. But my thinking is that what this does is give the town the opportunity going forward to itself decide the balance, how to fund affordable housing in a way more than the good, modest building fee amount that we provide from public funds now. So we can decide in the future whether our agricultural tax is high or low, whether we want to have a equal amount, let's say. So this will give the town the option going forward to continually review how to, using this conveyance tax, how to fund these important.
Thank you. Everybody, yeah. A minute for that.
I won't take a minute. The very thing that's different is that this is a tax on the seller, whereas the ag trust tax is on the purchaser. So the seller pays this tax.
Resident.
Yes.
Yep, thank you. Any further discussion? We have a motion on the table. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
I abstain.
I'm opposed.
Yeah, I have, it carries 3-1 with 1 abstention. Communications 5, invitation from the American Legion Post 37 to participate in the annual Memorial Day Parade and Services, May 26, 2025. Gary, help me out.
Yeah, motion to approve.
All in favor?
Aye.
Consent, anyone like to take out consent?
Motion to place consent calendar on file unless anybody wants to pull anything but discussion.
Thank you again. Thank you again. Gary, all in favor?
Aye.
Payment of bills?
Motion to pay the bills.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'll accept the motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all.
All right.